Okay, so Zoe, Brooke, and I chose to do the digestive system for this assignment, and the lucky animal that we chose to do was the lovable goat. Goats are herbivorous ruminant animals. Their digestive tracts are very similar to those of cattle and sheep. Oh, can you see that? Sheep and deer. Their digestive tracts consist of a mouth, esophagus, and stomach, which have the four compartments of rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum. They also have the small intestines, cecum, and large intestines, as well as the anus and the rectum. So the beginning of the digestive system, the process in a goat, starts with their mouth. Goats have no upper incisors, which means that they have no top teeth whatsoever at the front, or canine teeth. They depend on the rigid dental pad, which is at the top of their mouth, and the lower incisors of their teeth and their lips and tongue to take food into their mouths and grind up their food. Okay, so after the food has been brought through the mouth of the goat and it has been chewed multiple times, it is then brought down through the esophagus. The esophagus is a tube-like passage which starts at the mouth and leads to the stomach of the goat. The esophagus opens into the stomach at the point of the rumen and reticulum and helps transport gas and cud that it produces. Okay, after the food has traveled down through the esophagus, it ends up in the first stomach of the goat, called the rumen. The rumen, also known as the paunch, is the largest of the four stomach compartments. The rumen is lined with little projections called papilla, which helps increase the absorption surface in the rumen. The rumen contains many microorganisms that supply enzymes to break down the feed. Fatty acids are absorbed through the rumen and provide as much as 80% of the goat's energy requirements. Rumen microorganisms also produce large amounts of gases like methane and carbon dioxide, which then are released through what we call a burp or a belch. Once the food passes through the rumen, it then makes its way into the reticulum. The reticulum, also known as the hardware stomach, is placed just below the entrance of the esophagus going into the stomach. When goats are eating, they end up swallowing things other than their normal food, like pieces of wire, nails, wood, pieces of fence, and these objects become thrown into the reticulum. The reticulum is a part of the rumen, but separated by a little connection. Microbial action also takes place in the reticulum. The food then finds its way to the omasum, which is this bean-looking thing on this picture. The omasum consists of many different folds and layers that grind up feed, ingesta, and squeezes some of the water from the feed. After the omasum, the food then travels to the abomasum, also known as the true stomach of ruminant animals. The mucus of the fundus contains paretal, which releases hydrochloric acid in Scheff cells, which secrete the enzyme pepsine. Pepsine is responsible for breaking down feed proteins before they enter into the small intestines. From the abomasum, it then travels on through the small intestines. The partially digested food enters into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestines. The enzyme produced and secreted by the pancreas and Brenner's gland of the duodenum breaks down the food nutrients further. The components then are absorbed into the bloodstream of the goat or lymph by an active process carried on into the jejunum and ileum. The small intestines are lined with what is called a villi, which increases the absorption rate of the small intestines. Once the components are absorbed into the small intestines, the further broken down feed makes its way into the cecum, which is this section right here. The cecum is located at the junction of the small and large intestines. The feed that enters this compartment are digested by inhabiting microorganisms. The undigested feed and unabsorbed nutrients passes into the large intestines. The large intestines absorb water and further digestion of feed materials. Fecal pellets are formed at the end portion of the spiral colon, which is just down there. Once the pellets have been formed at the spiral colon, they are then released through the anus. So little poopy pellets come out. And then the whole digestive process starts over again. So just a quick recap, goats have a ruminant stomach which consists of 4 chambers: the rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum. The food passes through the mouth, into the esophagus, into the first 2 chambers, which is the rumen and the reticulum. And then the goat regurgitates its cud and then chews it multiple times, so the food does get mixed up again. And then it gets swallowed and goes through the same process and ends up in the omasum, which is right there, where absorption takes place. And the rest of the food travels to the true stomach, which is the abomasum, then through the small intestines and the cecum, the large intestines, the rectum, and then the rest of the waste comes out through the anus, and then the whole process is repeated. So yeah, that is the digestive system of a goat. It comes up and comes out of the anus. Fucking crazy. So once the food gets absorbed by the large intestines and once the pellets are formed at the end of the large intestine, it then gets pushed. What are you doing here? Daisy, get off it! Don't be on there. Go in. What are you doing? Are then absorbed into the bloodstream of the goat or lymph by an active process carried on into the Once the components are absorbed into the small intestines, they are fucking crazy. Here. Come here. Daisy.
Daisy, come here and please get your bum over here.
Daisy. Ah. Once the shit. Produced and secreted by the pancreas and Brunner's gland of the duodenum breaks the fucking crazy. Daisy, what did you take? Do you have my eraser? Hey, give it back. No. Hey, you. Come here. Daisy. Daisy. Can I have it back, please? Daisy. Come here. Come here. Oh, can I have it, please? Can I have it, please? Hey, look at your face. Look at it. Let go. Come here. Hey. Daisy. Daisy. Oh, she has my eraser.
There's your eraser.
It's in her mouth.
Then you have to get a treat out of the cupboard and then she'll drop it and
Daisy.
run over and get that. That's how you do it.
Do you want a treat? Come get you. Can I grab your eraser? Oh no, I got it. I got it. Ha, ha. How do you feel now?